Hello all, today I'm going to talk about some techniques on how to inspire and motivate your teams. By doing this, you're going to challenge them to bring their best work, and that will cause them to evolve and grow. Hey everyone, it's Rico here. Today we're going to talk about how to keep your team more inspired and more motivated to do their best work. A lot of people believe that motivation comes from inside or from oneself, but there's something to be said about leaders that can inspire their teams and create that motivation as a group and then inspire that motivation within their employees to do great work. There are actually a lot of things that you can do as a leader, and today hopefully I'm going to motivate you and inspire you with these tips to get your team going. Let's get into it. So first, you want to make sure that you set goals for your team and make sure they are clear and achievable. Having a clear goal is important. How are you supposed to know where you're supposed to end up or where you're supposed to go if you don't have a map that kind of helps guide you? So when it comes to setting these goals for your team, make sure that it's clear. Make sure they understand what success looks like and what the outcome looks like. You don't have to be prescriptive about how they get there. Make sure they understand what the goals are and that they are actually achievable. Sometimes if tasks are too ambiguous or too difficult to understand, it's not really setting your team up for success. In some cases, explorations and ambiguity do well, but in a lot of cases, if it's too ambiguous and not clear, you're not setting up your team for success. And if you're not doing that, then that can lead to a lot of frustration and disappointment. On the other hand of that, if you set goals that are too easy, that won't give your team the feeling of accomplishment or even inspired or motivated if they feel like it's just a to-do list and the job is really easy that you gave them. You have to really find that sweet spot between a goal that is challenging, but it's also still within reach. By doing that, you'll maximize your team's chances for success and also ensure that everybody feels like they're contributing to the whole of the group. The second tip is to share examples of great work. When it comes to finding examples of great work, use the team at hand, and also the internet is a great tool. A quick search on, say, top 10 trailers from 2022 or the best mobile app from 2021. There are some things that you can look up online or look up in the industry that can help you define what creative excellence is or whatever excellence is in your terms for your team. There's no better way to get them motivated than especially if it's creative, than seeing other creative work. In some cases, even going to museums or going through some other experiences can help inspire and motivate your teams. And for example, we were trying to decide at Netflix how to reduce choice. So what we did is we went to a sommelier, we went to a matchmaker, we did certain experiences that require personalization and matching, and just to help understand the human psyche a little bit better. And that really inspired us to think more about how we can make our recommendations even better. Number 3 is to celebrate wins and acknowledge contributions. This seems like a no-brainer, but a company is made up of individuals, and the team is only as strong as its collective. So when you are accomplishing things, you want to make sure that you're celebrating those wins that the team has, but also the individual accolades. If somebody, found a new way to scale something that hadn't been done before, or they figured out the one piece of code that was not right, or they figured out how the best way to merchandise your product. The project was probably a group project, but you want to make sure you identify and give accolades to the individual effort that added to the collective. Lots of times it's simple as a pat on the back or just calling them out in a meeting and say hey Jane, that was amazing work. I'm glad you did that. We wouldn't have gotten this to the finish line without you. Those little celebrations, acknowledgments, go a long way to motivating and inspiring your team, and also lets your team know that you know the value that they bring and they're important. Number 4 is give constructive feedback that is specific, actionable, and timely. So it's important that it's all three of those things. You want to make sure that it's specific to like what exactly you're giving the feedback on. It's actionable, so they understand like what the next steps are, what your expectations are, and then it's timely. You don't want to give feedback 6 weeks after the fact. You want to make sure you're giving feedback right away, so they understand like how quickly they need to react, and it's fresher in their minds. It's the worst thing you can do is say like, oh, you remember that thing you did 6 months ago? Yeah, I'm giving you feedback on it now. My team has a acronym, it's RTF, real-time feedback. So you make sure you're giving that feedback in real time is actionable and specific. And when you make sure that it encompasses all three of those things, there's less of a chance that your team will feel like you're kind of being micromanagey. You know, if you give like exact, like just do it this way or whatever, that's not going to be helpful. So let me give you an example. So if somebody is, say, interrupting people in a meeting, so instead of saying like, hey, you're being rude, you can say, I'm feeling frustrated because every time I'm talking, you're interrupting and you cut me off. Can we please agree to take turns when speaking? So like, it's a small example, but it's real time, it's specific, and it's actionable. And if they don't want to change, that's a whole nother video and that's a different discussion. Number 5 is encourage creativity, innovation, and risk taking. Take risks. Be creative, innovate. That's what the world is about. Constantly evolving and getting better. And most great leaders will provide the right context. So like, even though we're risk tolerant, the team understands the boundaries. So it's important that you allow the team to explore and go as wild as they can, because it inspires them to think bigger and it motivates them to like, hey, my leader said I can go as big as I want to. Now, you can always tell them to go bigger and reduce, but the thing you can't do is ask them to think small and get bigger. So it is really inspiring and motivating to have like these high level pie in the sky, what's the craziest thing that can happen right now? Thoughts, like risks and innovative ways of thinking. And then you can whittle it down to like what's actually actionable and what can we execute against. By doing this, you actually push people out of their comfort zone, because maybe their comfort zone is like stay within the guardrails. And what you really ask them to do is like, what guardrails? If you could build this thing all over again from scratch, knowing what you know now, how would you make it better? What things would you do? Like, that's the better way of thinking than like, oh, let's like continue taking half steps. That's not inspiring. That's not motivating. That's not growth. It also creates an environment of fear. Like, people are afraid to make mistakes if you don't allow for risks. So if you allow for risks, that also means you have to allow people to fail. And I think that's the best way to foster creativity. If you're not allowed to fail, then how do you know how far to push? Because if you didn't push, you need to fail to understand how far you can go and what the boundaries are. Number 6 is recognize individual strengths and weaknesses. So this isn't to say like, oh, we're going to work on your weaknesses. It's more good leaders are aware of where people shine and where people aren't so great. So in this way, you're able to help distribute the work in a more even way. So if you have someone on your team that really loves project management, 2 things are going to happen. You're going to give them more project management, so they're going to be confident in something that they know they do well and they are excited about or inspired or motivated by, and you know it's going to get done well, right? If you have someone who's terrible at project management and you give them the project management stuff, like, I don't know if they'll be inspired. They might be afraid of messing up. They might be more timid. So you really want to lean on your team's strengths and foster their strengths, and then acknowledge that, yes, we'll work on your weaknesses, but I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do, and I'm not going to ask anything that would put your confidence or your role in jeopardy, right? So good leaders know how to do that. They know how to aim the weapons the right way and to get the most out of them, and this is another way to inspire and motivate. Number 7 is to foster a positive work culture. Like, this is important. This is one of the things that everybody asks about in their interview, at least I do, and I coach other people too, is like, what's the culture like? You want a place where you feel challenged, that you're able to do your best work. You know what your expectations are. And I'm not saying you have to be like-minded, but like an environment of like doing your best work. And that comes through in a positive work environment where people can trust, people are open, people can debate, people can show up where they are. Like, it's really important to establish that culture up front and make sure that everybody can abide by it and is inspired and motivated by that culture. And some cultures won't work for everybody, and that's okay. You know, like you don't have to, the culture doesn't have to be perfect for everybody, but creating that positive work environment is going to help motivate people and get people excited to come to work and do their jobs and work together with their peers. Number 7 is show interest in your team members' lives. So the theme here really is that it's important to inspire and motivate your teams. One way to do that is just to show genuine interest in their personal lives, like as people. You know, what do they have going on? Like I mentioned in another video doing the 3x3, where you talk about your 3 personal goals and your 3 professional goals, and, you know, checking in on those goals. So professional can be like, oh, I want to do more presentations and get better, help them with that. But a personal goal could be like, I want to travel more, I want to cook more, I want to get in shape, whatever it is. And check in on those as well. Like those are ways that you show that you're interested in people's personal lives. Get to know their names of their partners, know if they have kids or dogs or pets or whatever, and just like be genuinely interested and curious about them. Now, it's not like a thing where you just write down everybody's names and their kids and like read off a list. Like you just have to really be interested in them. And by showing that you're interested in them, it shows that, you know, you respect, you build trust, you actually want to have a relationship. And there's no better way to inspire and motivate others around you to perform for you is then to know that you guys have a relationship, that there's genuine care between the both of you, or between all of you as a team. And it makes it much easier when work-related things come up, that you have a personal relationship, that you can, you know, have those conversations openly and freely and know that it's not, you're not supposed to take it personally. It also allows you to coach better. It allows you to understand things that they're maybe going through, and you can help them reach their full potential because you know the way to nurture them, and you know their work style, you know their learning style. So don't be afraid to get personal with your team. It shows that you care, and not only shows that you respect, but you trust each other. And don't mistake respect for trust, because they're completely different. Respect you can have for almost anyone, but trust has to be built or given. So there you have it, the top tips for me on how to inspire and motivate your teams. It really is like expecting them to bring their best work. So, you know, they start to expect that of themselves, getting to know them as people, and really just building an environment of creativity, trust, great culture, risk-taking, and safety. And it's really what it comes down to. So if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment below if you agree, disagree, or you have any other tips for the rest of us. And that being said, I will see you next time.